A little girl climbed a tree in Yellowstone and found something that wasn't supposed to exist. Inside a hidden cabin, 15 feet off the ground, were notebooks, records of something that had been running for years. When her neighbor opened them, he saw dates, coordinates, and initials that led back to the night his son died. Someone had been baiting predators near the trails, conditioning them to return, and the ledgers proved it wasn't an accident. The people who built that cabin knew what they were doing, and they knew who might get hurt. Now the town is fracturing, because the truth didn't just stay in the woods. Subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because what he uncovered changed everything. Hank Mercer wiped grease from his hands and stared at the generator. It hummed now. The neighbor would pay him in cash tomorrow. He walked to his truck. The clock on the dash read 4:30. He could take the highway home or cut through the back road past the pullout. He chose the highway. 7 years ago, his son had died at that pullout. The radio call had sent Jake into a drainage where a bear had been waiting. Hank did not visit the spot anymore. He pulled into his driveway 20 minutes later. The shed stood behind the house. He unlocked it and stepped inside. Coffee cans lined the shelves. Each can held bolts sorted by size. The workbench was clean. His tools hung on pegboard hooks. This order kept him steady. His phone buzzed. Maya Reyes's mother. "Hank, you busy?" "Just got home," he said. "Maya found something weird. A cabin in a tree. Sheriff laughed it off, but I thought you might look." Hank frowned. "Where?" "North Drainage, past the trailhead. She can show you." He did not want to hike into the woods. He wanted dinner and silence, but he had known the Reyes family for years. "I'll check it out," he said. "Thanks. Tomorrow morning?" "Sure." He ended the call. The shed smelled like oil and sawdust. He pulled a coil of rope from a hook and set it by the door. Outside, the light was fading. He locked the shed and walked to the house. Inside, he heated soup and ate standing at the counter. The cabin in a tree made no sense. Kids built forts. Adults built blinds for hunting. But hunting season was over, and the park did not allow blinds near the boundary. He washed the bowl. His stepdaughter Ruthie had called him paranoid once. She meant careful. He preferred careful. He checked the shed lock before bed. It held firm. Tomorrow he would climb a tree and humor a 9-year-old girl. He lay down and closed his eyes. The ceiling creaked. The house was old. Sounds meant nothing. But in the morning he would bring a flashlight. And the rope. Hank met Maya and her mother at the trailhead. The girl wore a purple jacket. She pointed north. "It's high up," Maya said. "I saw notebooks." "Show me," Hank said. They walked into the lodgepole stand. The trees grew close together. Branches scratched his jacket. Maya moved ahead. She stopped under a tall pine. "There." Hank looked up. A platform sat 15 feet above the ground. Weathered boards and frayed rope. A tarp covered something at the center. "How did you find this?" he asked. "I was tracking a squirrel," Maya said. Her mother shook her head. "She climbs everything." Hank studied the tree. The platform was old but solid. Someone had built it carefully. He pulled on his gloves and uncoiled the rope. "Stay down here," he said. He climbed. The bark was rough under his hands. The first branch held his weight. He tested each foothold before moving higher. The platform had a hatch. He pushed it open. Inside was a sealed plastic tote. He dragged it into the light and pried off the lid. Ledgers, 3 of them, spiral-bound with water-stained covers. He opened the first one. Columns of dates and GPS coordinates. Initials he did not recognize. A faded stamp at the bottom. Clearwater Contractors, LLC. He found loose SD cards in a zippered pouch. Trail camera cards. His chest tightened. This was not a blind. This was a record. He called down. "I'm taking it." "What is it?" Maya's mother asked. "Don't know yet." He lowered the tote on the rope. Then he climbed down. His hands shook slightly. He steadied them. Maya looked at him. "Did I do something bad?" "No," he said. "You did good." A bolt above them creaked. Hank glanced up. The platform swayed once and stopped. He picked up the tote. "Let's go." They walked back to the trailhead. Maya's mother thanked him. He loaded the tote into his truck and drove home. Inside the shed, he locked the door. He opened the tote again and spread the ledgers on the workbench. Someone had kept detailed records. That meant something valuable, or something illegal. He would read every page tonight. Hank slid an SD card into his old laptop. The screen loaded slowly. Then footage appeared. Night vision, a clearing, a pile of meat scraps and salt blocks. A bear walked into frame. It ate. The timestamp read April 14th, 2018. He clicked to the next file. Same clearing, different date. The bear returned. Hank played 6 more clips. The pattern held. Bait drops, scheduled visits. He opened the first ledger. The dates matched. Column headers read, location, drop, return, initials. April 14th, N3 drainage, 22 Quonksors confirmed. TH. He did not recognize the initials, but the subcontractor stamp at the bottom was clear. Clearwater Contractors, LLC. He searched online. The company had dissolved in 2019. No active contracts, no listed owners. Hank rubbed his eyes. He needed help, someone who knew park records. He thought of Elena Park. She worked in the archives. She was careful. She did not gossip. He called her. "Elena, it's Hank Mercer." "Hey, what's up?" "I need to ask about an old contractor, Clearwater LLC. You ever hear of them?" A pause. "Where did you hear that name?" "Found some paperwork. Thought it was odd." "Odd how?" He chose his words. "Out of place." "Hank, if you're holding something you shouldn't, don't keep it off-chain." "I'm just asking." Another pause. Clearwater handled logistics, helicopter drops, maintenance hours. They billed under the table a few times. Got flagged in an audit. "When?" "Long time ago, 2017 maybe." "Thanks," he said. "Hank, be careful." He ended the call. The ledger sat open in front of him. Dates and coordinates, bait and return visits. This was not maintenance. This was a system. He tucked the tote into a false floor compartment beneath the workbench. Then he locked the shed and went inside. Sleep did not come easily. He kept seeing the bear on the screen. Fed, reliable, trained. At dawn he checked the shed. The lock was intact, but that night someone came. Hank saw the scratches on the lock when he opened the shed at sunrise. Fresh marks. Someone had used a pry bar. He stepped inside. The tools were untouched. The workbench looked normal. Then he saw the SD card case on the floor. Open. Empty. One card was missing. His pulse hammered. Someone had been watching him. They knew he had the tote. They knew where he kept it. He checked the false floor. The tote was still there, but the case had been rifled. He called Elena. "They broke into my shed," he said. "Who?" "I don't know. Took one SD card." "Hank, you need to turn this over." "I have more than I told you." Silence. Then she said, "How much more?" 3 ledgers, 20 SD cards, all tied to bait drops." "Jesus, where are you?" "Home. Meet me tonight, parking lot behind the diner. Bring 1 ledger page." "Okay." She hung up. Hank locked the shed and went inside. He made coffee. His hands were steady now. That evening he drove to the diner. Elena waited in her car. He slid into the passenger seat. She turned on the dome light. He handed her a photocopy of a ledger page. She studied it. Her finger traced the columns. These codes match dispatch invoices. I've seen them in the archives. What do they mean? Authorized drops, maintenance materials, except these dates don't line up with any filed reports. Someone was hiding it. Yeah. She looked at him. This is bigger than we thought. What do? We compare these to archived dispatch logs, see if there's a pattern. When? Tomorrow, I'll pull the summaries. But Hank, you need to keep this locked tight. I will. She handed the page back. And don't go anywhere alone. He drove home. The streetlights cast long shadows. A truck idled at the corner but pulled away when he turned. Inside, he put the ledger page in a fireproof box. Then he sat in the dark and waited for morning. Someone knew. Someone was watching. And they wanted him to stop. Elena spread the dispatch summaries across the table. Hank matched them with the ledger entries. The dates lined up. There, Elena said. She pointed to a spike in June 2017. Guaranteed sightings went up 40% that month. Hank checked the ledger. June 2017 showed 15 bait drops, all in the north drainage. They were conditioning the bears, he said, and the wolves. Look at this. She tapped another date. August 2018, 5 drops in 1 week. Hank's stomach twisted. August 2018, that was the month before Jake died. He flipped to September. The ledger showed a drop on the 12th. Jake had died on the 14th, in the same drainage. This one, he said. His voice was flat. Elena looked at the entry, then at him. Hank. He went in there because of this. You don't know that. The bears were trained to come back. Someone made them predictable. Then my son walked into it. Elena touched his arm. We need to be sure. We need chain of custody. I need to understand first. Hank, I'm going back to the tree. There might be more. That's a bad idea. I'll be careful. She shook her head. Then I'm coming with you. No. You don't get to do this alone. He looked at her. She was scared but steady. He nodded. They agreed to meet at dawn. Hank drove home and loaded his pack. Flashlight, rope, camera. That night he could not sleep. The dates looped in his head. June, August, September. His son had died because someone wanted tourists to see bears. At 5 a.m. he left for the trailhead. Hank climbed the tree again at first light. The platform groaned under his weight. He opened the hatch. The tote was gone. But when he pressed the boards, a section gave slightly. A false bottom. He pried it open. Inside was another ledger. Newer. The handwriting was different. Dates ran through 2024. He photographed every page. Then he took the ledger and left a cheap spiral notebook in its place. On the ground he studied the base of the tree. Fresh boot prints circled the trunk. Adult-sized. Not his tread. Someone had been here recently. Maybe yesterday. Maybe this morning. He hiked out fast. The trail felt too quiet. At the pullout, a truck sat idling. Dark blue. Mud on the plates. It pulled away when he reached his vehicle. Hank drove to Elena's apartment. She let him in. He spread the new ledger on her kitchen table. This goes to last month, he said. She turned pages. These initials, I've seen them before. Where? On park employment rosters. Hank felt cold. Someone inside? Maybe, or someone with access? She closed the ledger. We need to copy everything. They spent 2 hours scanning pages. Elena saved files to 3 USB drives. One for Hank, one for her, one for a safe deposit box. What now? She asked. I talked to Cole. The outfitter? He flew helicopters, off-season charters. Hank, if he's involved, then I need to know. She did not argue. He left with the ledger in his pack and the USB drive in his pocket. At home, he locked the shed and went inside. His phone buzzed. Blocked number. He answered. Silence. Then the line went dead. He checked the window. The street was empty, but the feeling did not leave. Someone was watching, and they were getting closer. Cole Braddock worked out of a barn north of town. Hank found him greasing a winch cable. "Hank, long time." "Yeah." Hank leaned against the workbench. "You still do off-season flights?" Cole wiped his hands. "Not much anymore. Why?" "Heard you used to haul supplies. Salt drops?" Cole's smile faded. "Who told you that?" "Does it matter?" "Hank, what are you asking?" "I'm asking if you flew bags into the North Drainage, 2017 through 2019. Cole set down the rag. "Everyone did favors back then. Kept tourists happy." "Favors like baiting bears?" "It wasn't baiting. It was sighting insurance." "That's the same thing." Cole looked at him. "Why are you digging into this?" "Because my son died in that drainage." Cole's face changed. "That was an accident." "Was it?" "Hank, I didn't— Who told you where to drop?" Cole shook his head. "I'm not doing this." "Then I'll find someone who will." Hank turned to leave. Outside, he checked his truck. The front tire was flat, not punctured. The valve stem was loose. He used his portable compressor to refill it. Cole watched from the barn door but did not come out. Hank drove home. He needed to tell Ruthie before rumors reached her. That night he sat at her kitchen table. She listened without interrupting. "This sounds like grief talking," she said finally. "It's not." "You're chasing something that might not be there." "The ledgers are real. The footage is real." She folded her arms. "And you're going to keep going?" "Yes." "Then be careful, and don't get yourself killed." He promised, but the promise felt thin. At home, he sorted the SD cards again. He labeled folders. He built a timeline. One name kept appearing. Trent Haller, County Commissioner, former concessions foreman. His phone buzzed. Blocked call. He answered. Silence. Then the line clicked off. Hank locked the doors. He did not sleep that night. Tomorrow he would confront records. And people. Hank and Elena met a friendly clerk at the archives during lunch. The clerk unlocked the basement storage. "Trail maintenance invoices," Elena said, 2017 to 2019. The clerk pulled 3 boxes. Elena and Hank carried them to a table. Inside were invoices labeled Seasonal Trail Upkeep. But the line items told a different story. Aviation fuel, off-book labor hours, helicopter rentals. The dates matched the bait drops. "This isn't maintenance," Hank said. Elena photographed every page. She checked timestamps. She left the originals in place. "This was coordinated," she said. "Someone signed off on these." Hank found a signature. Trent Haller, authorized as foreman in 2017. "He knew," Hank said. "We need more before we accuse a commissioner." "Then we keep looking." They returned the boxes. The clerk locked the storage room. Hank and Elena walked outside. "This is still happening," Elena said. "The new ledger proves it." "Then we stop it." "How?" "We build a case, then we take it. To someone who will listen." Elena nodded, but her hands shook when she unlocked her car. That night Hank sorted everything. Ledgers, invoices, SD cards, photographs. The pattern was clear: bait drops, authorized flights, falsified maintenance hours, all leading back to Haller. His phone buzzed. Blocked number. He let it ring. When it stopped, he checked the shed. The lock was intact. But tomorrow he would confront Haller. He would ask questions. And he would watch the man's face when the lies started. He went inside and locked the door. Sleep came slowly. Outside, the wind picked up. A branch scraped the window. The house was quiet. But the feeling remained. Something was coming. And it would not stop until he stopped. Or until they made him. Hank met Elena at the archives during the clerk's lunch break. She had called ahead. The clerk was expecting them. "Older files," Elena said. "Pre-2017. The clerk led them deeper into the basement. Boxes lined metal shelves. Dust coated everything. "These weren't digitized," the clerk said. "Nobody looks at them." "We need to," Hank said. The clerk pulled down 4 boxes and left them alone. Elena opened the first one. Inside were invoices stamped "Seasonal Operations." Hank read the line items: aviation fuel, charter hours, equipment rental. "Look at this date," Elena said. She held up an invoice. June 2016, before the ledgers started. Hank checked the signature line. Trent Haller, authorized as foreman. They went through 3 more boxes. The pattern repeated: fuel, flights, off-book labor. "This goes back further than we thought," Elena said. "How far?" "At least 5 years before Jake died." Hank's chest tightened. His son had walked into a system that had been running for years. Elena photographed pages. She checked timestamps. She kept the originals in their boxes. "We need to preserve chain of custody," she said. "I know." They worked for an hour. When they finished, Elena had 200 photos. The invoices showed aviation fuel that matched bait drop dates, labor hours that did not exist in official schedules. "This wasn't a one-time thing," Hank said. "No, it was an operation." They returned the boxes. The clerk locked the storage room. Outside, Elena leaned against her car. "Hank, this is still going." "I know. The new ledger, the fresh dates. Someone's still dropping bait. Then we find out who, and we stop them." Elena nodded, but her face was pale. Hank drove home. He thought about the invoices, the signatures, the years of drops. Jake had been 23 when he died. The system had been running since he was 18. At home, Hank sat in the dark. His phone buzzed. "Ruthie. You okay?" she asked. "Yeah. You don't sound okay." "I'm fine. Just tired." "Hank. I'll call you tomorrow." He ended the call. Outside, the wind rattled the windows. Somewhere in town, Trent Haller was sleeping, believing he was safe. Tomorrow, Hank would prove him wrong. Hank bought a cheap plastic tote at the hardware store. He loaded it with a photocopy of a ledger page and old receipts. Elena met him at the trailhead. She carried a small trail camera in her pack. "This records motion," she said. "Battery lasts 2 weeks." They hiked to the tree. Hank climbed first. The platform swayed under his weight. He opened the hatch. The decoy notebook was gone. Someone had taken it. He placed the new tote inside. Elena climbed up and wedged the camera into a knothole. The lens pointed at the hatch. "It's hidden," she said. They climbed down. Hank checked the base of the tree. Fresh boot prints again. Same tread as before. "They're checking regularly," he said. "We need to move the originals." "Where?" "My safe deposit box, or somewhere off property." Hank thought about the false floor in his shed. It had felt secure. Now it felt exposed. "I'll move them tonight," he said. They hiked out. At the pullout, a dark truck sat idling. It pulled onto the road ahead of them. The license plate was caked with mud. "That's the second time," Elena said. "I know." "Hank, they're following us." "Let them." She looked at him. "That's not smart." "We're not doing anything illegal. They are." They drove back to town separately. At home, Hank pulled the tote from the false floor. He loaded it into an old ammo can and locked it with a padlock. He drove to a storage unit on the edge of town. He rented a space under a fake name. Cash only. He locked the ammo can inside. At home, he checked the shed. Empty, except for tools. His phone buzzed. Elena. "I'm keeping a backup at my sister's house," she said. "Good. Be careful." "You too." He locked the doors. Outside, the street was quiet, but the feeling remained. Someone was watching, and they knew he was getting close. Tomorrow he would check the camera and see who came. Hank retrieved the trail camera at dawn. Elena met him at her apartment. They plugged the SD card into her laptop. The footage loaded. Timestamp, 11:47 p.m. A figure approached the tree. Male, medium build. He climbed quickly. "He's done this before," Elena said. The figure opened the hatch and reached inside. The decoy tote. He pulled out the ledger copy and pocketed it. The camera caught a clear shot. Park keys on a lanyard. Shoulder patch. Official jacket. "That's Park staff," Elena said. She froze the frame. The man's face was partly visible. Hank recognized the build. The gait. "I know him," Hank said. "Who?" "Works maintenance. I've seen him at the feed store." Elena pulled up employee rosters on her phone. She scrolled through photos. "There," Hank said. He pointed to a name. "That's him." Elena checked the work schedules. The man had been on duty the night of the footage, but his shift log showed him at the north gate, not in the drainage. "He's falsifying his location," Elena said, "to access the cabin. Or to meet someone." Hank studied the footage again. The man moved, with confidence. He knew where the cabin was. He knew what was inside. "We need to connect him to Haller," Hank said. Elena searched deeper. Old employment records. The man had been hired in 2016, recommended by Trent Haller. "There's the link," she said. Hank printed stills from the footage, clear shots of the face, the keys, the jacket. "What now?" Elena asked. "I talked to Haller. That's dangerous. I'll be careful." "Hank, he needs to know we have proof." Elena shook her head. But she did not argue. Hank left with the stills in his jacket. At home, he texted Elena. "Going to county building tomorrow," she replied immediately. "Don't go alone." "I'll be fine. Text me when you're out." He locked the doors. The stills sat on his kitchen table, evidence that a park employee was checking the cabin, on orders from someone higher. His phone buzzed, blocked number. He answered. Silence. Then a voice. Low. Male. "Stop digging." The line went dead. Hank set the phone down. His hands were steady. His mind was clear. Tomorrow he would walk into Haller's office, and he would ask the questions that mattered. The county building smelled like burnt coffee and old carpet. Hank climbed the stairs to the second floor. Trent Haller's office door was open. "Hank Mercer." Haller stood and smiled. "What brings you by?" "Wanted to ask about legacy projects." "Legacy projects?" "Old concession contracts, wildlife management partnerships." Haller gestured to a chair. "Have a seat." Hank sat. The office was neat. Photos on the wall, diplomas, certificates. "We've had a lot of partnerships over the years," Haller said. "Anything specific?" "Clearwater Contractors." Haller's smile flickered. "That was a long time ago. They did helicopter drops, maintenance hours." "Sure, standard operations." "Were they standard?" Haller leaned back. "Hank, where's this going?" "I'm trying to understand how things worked back then." "Why?" "Curiosity." Haller studied him. "You've been asking around. Elena Park? Cole Braddock? They're helpful." "Helpful about what?" Hank did not answer. He looked at the wall. A photo caught his eye. Dated 2017. Haller stood beside a blue helicopter. Clearwater Contractors logo on the tail. "That your bird?" Hank asked. Haller glanced at the photo. "Chartered it a few times." For what? Supply runs? Trail repairs? In the north drainage? Sometimes. Hank stood. Thanks for your time. Hank. Haller's voice sharpened. If you're chasing something, be careful. People don't like being accused. I'm not accusing anyone. Good, because this town doesn't need rumors. Hank left. In the hallway, a staffer watched him from a desk. She looked away when he made eye contact. Outside, he texted Elena. He knows, she replied. Get out of there. Hank climbed into his truck. His hands shook slightly. He started the engine and pulled onto the road. A dark truck followed 2 cars back. Same, mud-caked plates. He drove through town. The truck stayed behind. At a stop sign, Hank turned suddenly. The truck kept going. He circled back home. The street was empty. Inside, he locked the doors. His phone buzzed. Elena. Are you okay? Yeah. What did he say? He deflected, but he knows we're digging. Hank, we need help. I know. Real help. Someone with authority. Who? I'll find someone. She hung up. Hank sat in the dark. The photo in Haller's office stayed in his mind. The helicopter, the logo, the year before Jake died. His phone buzzed again. Blocked number. He did not answer. Elena called at dawn. I found something. Hank drove to her apartment. She had papers spread across her table. Dispatch logs. Old reroute orders. Look at this date, she said. September 12th, 2018. Hank's chest tightened. 2 days before Jake died. She handed him a reroute order, official letterhead, signed by Trent Haller as acting dispatch coordinator. Unit 7 was supposed to patrol the east side, Elena said. This order moved them to the north drainage. Jake's unit. Yes. Hank read the form. The reason listed. Reported bear activity. That drainage had bait drops, he said. I know. Haller sent him there. Elena touched his arm. Hank. He sent my son into a trap. We don't know if Haller knew the bait was there. Yes, we do. The ledgers prove it. Hank sat down. The room tilted. 7 years of believing it was random. 7 years of grief without blame. Now he had a name. A signature. What do we do? He asked. We bring in someone with authority. Someone outside the county. Who? I know a state wildlife officer. Lyle Monroe. He's clean. You trust him? Yes. Then call him. Elena made the call. Monroe agreed to meet them that evening. Off the record. Neutral location. Hank drove home. He sat in his shed. The tools hung on their hooks, everything in order. But his hands shook. His breath came short. Jake had been 23. Eager, careful. He had followed orders, and the orders had killed him. That evening, Hank met Elena at a gas station on the highway. Monroe pulled up in an unmarked truck. He was mid-50s, gray at the temples, calm eyes. Show me what you have, he said. Hank spread the ledgers on the hood. Monroe read silently. Elena showed him the invoices, the reroute order. Monroe's jaw tightened. This is prosecutable. What do we do? Hank asked. We build a case. Proper chain of custody. No shortcuts. How long will that take? Months, maybe longer. Hank shook his head. They're still dropping bait. I know, but if we move too fast, they'll destroy evidence. People could die. I understand, but we do this right or we lose in court. Hank looked at Elena. She nodded. Okay, Hank said. We do it your way. Monroe agreed to a joint site visit. Formal documentation. Proper procedure. And Hank, Monroe said, watch your back. These people know. You're on to them. Hank drove home. The street was quiet, but the feeling did not leave. Tomorrow they would go back to the tree, with Monroe, with authority, and they would start building the case that would put Haller away. Monroe met them at the trailhead. He wore a state wildlife vest and carried a field kit. "We document everything," he said. "Photos, GPS coordinates, chain of custody." They hiked to the tree. Monroe studied the platform. He took photos from multiple angles. Hank climbed first. Monroe followed. Inside the hatch, the decoy tote was still there. Empty now. Monroe dusted for prints. He collected fiber samples. He photographed tool marks on the boards. "This was built to last," he said. "Not a temporary blind." They climbed down. Monroe walked the perimeter. He found boot prints, fresh. He cast one in plaster. "Whoever's checking this site is confident," Monroe said. "No attempt to hide tracks." "Because nobody comes out here," Elena said. "That changes now." They hiked out. At the trailhead, Monroe loaded the evidence into his truck. "I'll file this with the state office," he said. "But we need more. Financial records, witness statements." "What about the new bait drops?" Hank asked. "I'll schedule sweeps of the concession yards. Quiet. No advance notice." "When?" "Next week. I need warrants first." Hank wanted to move faster, but Monroe was right. Rushing would blow the case. "One more thing," Monroe said. "Keep copies of everything, off-site, in case something happens." "We already did," Elena said. "Good." Monroe looked at Hank. "These people are going to push back. Hard. Be ready." They drove home separately. Hank checked his rear view every few minutes. No dark truck, no followers. At home, he locked the shed. Inside, he pulled out a notebook and wrote down names. Haller, the maintenance worker. Cole. He needed witnesses, people who would talk. His phone buzzed. Ruthie. "Can I come by?" she asked. "Sure." She arrived 20 minutes later. They sat in his kitchen. "You look tired," she said. "I am." "Is it worth it?" "Yes." She folded her hands. "Then I support you. But if this gets dangerous, you pull back. Deal?" "Deal." She left. Hank locked the door behind her. Outside, the wind picked up. The shed door rattled. Tomorrow, Monroe would start the formal process. Warrants, documentation, proper channels. But tonight, Hank sat alone and thought about the reroute order. The signature. The date. Someone had sent his son to die. And now he had proof. Hank's truck felt sluggish on the morning drive. He pumped the brake. Soft. Too soft. He pulled over. Under the truck brake fluid pooled on gravel. The lines were cut. Clean. Deliberate. He called Monroe. "Someone cut my brakes." "Where are you?" "North End. Near mile marker 12. "Don't drive. I'm sending a tow." Hank sat on the tailgate. His hands were steady, but his mind raced. They had come to his house. They had sabotaged his truck. The tow arrived 30 minutes later. Monroe pulled up behind it. "Show me," Monroe said. They crawled under the truck. Both lines severed. Professional cuts. "This wasn't amateur," Monroe said. "No." "File a police report, now." "Will they do anything?" "Probably not, but you need it on record." The tow hauled the truck to a shop. Hank called Ruthie. "I need a ride." "Where are you?" "Mick's garage." She arrived angry. "What happened?" "Brake lines." "Hank." "It's fine. I caught it before. It's not fine. You could have died." "But I didn't." She gripped the steering wheel. "You need to stop." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because Jake deserves the truth." "Jake's dead. You're not." Hank looked at her. "I know." "Then stop chasing ghosts." "They're not ghosts. They're people. Living people who killed him." Ruthie's eyes filled. "And you're going to get yourself killed too." "I'm being careful." "Are you?" She wiped her face. "Because it doesn't look careful." They sat in silence. Finally, Ruthie drove him home. She did not come inside. That evening, Monroe called. Brake lines are being tested for prints, but don't expect much. I know. Hank, they're escalating. You need to consider backing off. No. Then be smarter. Cameras, locks. Don't travel alone. I won't. Monroe hung up. Hank installed motion lights on the shed. He checked every window lock. At midnight, his phone buzzed. Elena. Someone followed me home. What? Dark truck, mud plates. He's parked across the street. Call the cops. And say what? Hank grabbed his keys, then remembered. No truck. Stay inside. Lock the doors. I'm scared. I know, but we're close. They know it. He stayed on the phone with her until the truck pulled away. Then he sat in the dark and stared at nothing. Tomorrow his truck would be fixed, and he would keep going, because stopping meant they won. And Jake died for nothing. Monroe picked up Hank and Elena at dawn. They drove to the tree cabin in daylight. No hiding now. Monroe climbed the platform. He photographed every board, every bolt. He collected more fibers. On the ground, Hank walked the drainage. 50 yards from the tree, he smelled it. Rot. Meat. He found a fresh bait site, meat scraps, salt blocks, a plastic bag half buried. Monroe, he called. The officer came over. He knelt and photographed the site. Then he lifted the bag. A label. Ranch supplier. Local address. This is active, Monroe said. Recent. Within the week. Elena took photos. Monroe bagged samples. The meat stank. Flies swarmed. They're still doing it, Hank said. Yeah. Monroe stood. I'm scheduling a sweep of the concession yards. This week. What are you looking for? Mislabeled containers, invoices, anything that connects to these drops. They hiked out. At the trailhead, Monroe loaded the evidence. Stay close to your phones, he said. When I move, it'll be fast. Hank and Elena drove back separately. Wine. Home, Hank's phone buzzed. Cole. We need to talk. When? Tonight. My barn. Why? Because this is getting worse, and I need to tell you something. Hank agreed. That evening he drove to Cole's place in a borrowed truck from Ruthie. Cole waited in the darkened barn. He looked older. Tired. They know you're working with the state, Cole said. How? Word travels. Haller's asking questions. Let him. Hank, he's putting pressure on people, on me. What does he want? Silence. Hank stepped closer. What did you do, Cole? I flew the drops. I hauled the bags. I thought it was harmless. It wasn't. I know that now. Then help me prove it. Cole shook his head. If I talk, I lose everything. Fines, jail, my business. And if you don't, people die. Cole looked at the ground. What do you want? Texts, emails, proof that Haller pressured you. I might have something. Then send it to me. Cole pulled out his phone. He scrolled. Then he showed Hank a text thread. Dates, locations, instructions to drop materials in specific drainages. Hank photographed the screen. Send these to Monroe. I can't. You just did. Cole stepped back. Hank, they'll destroy me. They'll destroy you anyway if you stay quiet. Hank left. Outside, the air was cold. Clear. He drove home and forwarded the photos to Monroe. His phone buzzed immediately. Monroe. This is good. I can use this. When? Soon. Hank locked the doors. He checked the motion lights. Everything quiet. But tomorrow the town would start talking, and Haller would know the walls were closing in. Cole met Hank at the barn after midnight. The door was closed. One lamp lit the space. I've been thinking, Cole said. About what? About Jake. About the drops. Hank waited. I flew salt runs starting in 2016. Haller set the schedules. He said it was for tourism, guaranteed sightings, better reviews. How often? 3 times a month, sometimes more. Where? North drainage mostly, a few other spots. Hank pulled out his phone. Tell me dates. Cole gave him 6 months of drops. Hank matched them to the ledgers. Perfect alignment. Who else knew? Hank asked. Park maintenance, a couple dispatchers. Marla Dennehy approved the flight logs. The superintendent? Yeah, she signed off every quarter. Hank felt cold. The conspiracy went higher than he thought. Why are you telling me this now? Because if I don't, I'm going down anyway, and because Jake was a good kid. Cole pulled out his phone. He opened texts, messages from Haller, instructions, locations, pressure to keep flying. He threatened fines if I stopped, Cole said. Said I'd lose my permits. Send these to me. Hank, if I do this, you already decided. Send them. Cole forwarded the thread. 30 messages, all from Haller. Explicit instructions, threats. What happens now? Cole asked. You testify. I'll lose everything. You'll keep your freedom. Maybe. Cole sat on a hay bale. He looked small, defeated. When? He asked. When Monroe asks, you tell him everything. Okay. Hank left. Outside, the stars were bright, cold. He drove home and forwarded the texts to Monroe. Monroe called immediately. This is enough for warrants, multiple properties. I'm moving tomorrow. Good. Hank, stay home. Let me handle this. I will. But the promise felt thin. Tomorrow the town would explode, and Haller would strike back. Hank locked the doors. He checked the shed, the motion lights, everything secure. At 2 a.m. his phone buzzed, blocked number. He answered. You made a mistake, the voice said. Who is this? Someone who knows where Ruthie works, where she lives. The line went dead. Hank called Monroe, left a voicemail. Then he called Ruthie. Pack a bag, he said. What? Someone just threatened you. Stay with a friend tonight. Hank, please. She agreed. Hank sat in the dark and waited for dawn. Tomorrow Monroe would move, and everything would change. Elena called at 8 a.m. Her voice shook. They suspended my badge access. Why? Formal reprimand, removing restricted materials without authorization. What materials? The invoices. They're saying I broke protocol. Hank gripped the phone. Who filed the complaint? Marla Dennehy. She's covering. I know, but now I can't access the archives. I can't pull records. Do we have everything we need? I think so, but if they destroy the originals, Monroe has copies. Chain of custody. Elena was quiet. Then she said, I could lose my job. I know. Was this worth it? Yes. She exhaled. Okay. Then I'm staying in. You don't have to. Yes, I do. They agreed to meet that afternoon. Hank drove to the storage unit and pulled the ammo can. He opened it and checked the originals. Still intact. He photographed every page again, uploaded everything to a cloud drive. 3 backups now. At Elena's apartment, she looked tired, scared. I got a call from HR, she said. They're investigating me for misconduct. What kind? Unauthorized access, falsifying timesheets. That's garbage. I know, but they're building a case. Hank showed her the new photos, the cloud backups. We have everything, he said. They can't erase it. They can destroy me. Not if we move first. Elena looked at the photos, then at him. Monroe said this week, right? Yeah. Then we wait. And we hold. That evening, Monroe called. Warrants approved. I'm hitting the concession yards tomorrow morning, early. What do you need from us? Nothing. Stay out of sight. Okay. Monroe hung up. Hank texted Elena. Tomorrow, she replied. I'm ready. Hank locked the doors. He checked the windows. The shed, everything quiet. But sleep did not come. He lay in the dark and thought about Elena losing her job, about Ruthie's fear, about Maya's innocent discovery. He had dragged them all into this, and tomorrow they would face the consequences. At dawn, his phone buzzed. "Monroe." "We're moving. Stay by your phone." Hank made coffee. He sat at the kitchen table and waited. Marla Dennehy's assistant called at 10 a.m. "She'd like to see you." "When?" "Now." Hank drove to park headquarters. Marla waited in her office. The door closed behind him. "Sit," she said. He sat. "You've been busy," she said. "Researching. Harassing employees, removing park records, working with state officers without authorization. I filed no complaints. But you're building a case." "Yes." Marla leaned back. "Hank, I knew your son. Good kid. What happened was tragic. It was preventable. Maybe. But digging into old records won't bring him back. It'll stop it from happening again." "You don't know that." Hank pulled out his phone. He showed her a photo of the bait site. Fresh. Recent. "This was dropped last week," he said. Marla's face tightened. "Where did you get this?" "The north drainage. That's parkland. You had no authorization. Someone's still baiting bears, under your watch." Marla stood. She walked to the window. "The park can handle its own investigations." "Will it?" She turned. "Hank, you're making enemies. People who know where you live, where Ruthie works. Are you threatening me?" "I'm warning you. This town survives on tourism. Bad press kills jobs, families. Truth doesn't care about PR. Truth is messy and expensive." Hank stood. "I'm giving everything to Monroe. He'll decide what happens. You'll regret this. Maybe. But Jake won't have died for nothing." He left. Outside, a dark truck idled across the street. Same mud plates. It pulled away when he looked. Hank called Monroe. "Marla just threatened me." "Threatened how?" "Veiled. Said people know where I live." "That's witness intimidation. I'll add it to the file." "When are you hitting the yards?" "Right now, I'm on site." "What did you find?" "Call you in an hour." Hank drove home. Ruthie was waiting on his porch. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah." "Liar." They went inside. He made coffee. She sat across from him. "When does this end?" she asked. "Soon." "Promise?" "Yes." His phone buzzed. "Monroe. Found bait additives, mislabeled barrels, invoices that match your ledgers." "Where?" "Locked cabinet in the concession office. Elena photographed everything before I secured it." "What now?" "I'm calling a reporter. Someone regional. This goes public today." Hank felt his chest tighten. "Okay." Monroe hung up. Ruthie looked at him. "What happened?" "They found proof." "Good. It's going public." She nodded. "Then brace yourself." Maya's mother called at 7 a.m. Her voice was tight. "CPS came yesterday." Hank sat up. "What?" "Anonymous complaint. Said we let Maya roam unsupervised, that she's in danger." "That's retaliation." "I know, but now we're being investigated." "Did they talk to Maya?" "Yes, she's terrified. Thinks she did something wrong." Hank felt sick. "This is my fault." "No, it's theirs. But Hank, we're pulling back. I can't risk losing her." "I understand. I'm sorry." She hung up. Hank sat in the kitchen. The morning light felt wrong, harsh. He called Elena. "They went after Maya's family." "How?" "CPS visit. False complaint." Elena was quiet. Then she said, "They're trying to break us." "It's working." "What do you mean?" "Maya's family is out. You're suspended. Ruthie's scared. Maybe we should stop." "Hank, people are getting hurt. People were already hurt. Your son, others we don't know about. But Maya is safer if this ends. If the baiting stops. If Haller goes to jail." Hank rubbed his face. He was tired. So tired. "I don't know if I can keep going," he said. Yes, you can. How do you know? Because you've come this far, and we're almost done. He looked at the ammo can in the corner. The ledgers? The truth. What if it's not worth it? He asked. Then Jake died for nothing, and the next person will too. Hank closed his eyes. She was right. Stopping now meant surrendering, meant letting Haller win. Okay, he said. We finished this. Monroe's moving today. Reporters already asking questions. This ends now. Okay. He hung up. Outside, the sun climbed higher. The town was waking. Somewhere Haller was scrambling. Somewhere Marla was making calls. And somewhere Maya was scared because she found a cabin in a tree. Hank stood. He checked the shed. The motion lights, everything in place. He would finish this. For Jake. For Maya. For everyone who came next. Monroe called at noon. I need you at the concession yard. Bring Elena. Why? Witness documentation. Official record. They met at the yard. Monroe waited with 2 rangers. The gate was open. We're doing a public inspection, Monroe said. By the book. They walked through the storage area. Tools, equipment, maintenance supplies. Monroe stopped at a locked cabinet. He opened it with a park master key. Inside were plastic barrels. Labels read road salt. But when Monroe opened one, the smell was wrong. Organic, rotten. Bait additives, he said. Elena photographed everything. Dates on the barrels, lot numbers, supplier invoices in a folder. Monroe pulled the invoices. They matched the ledger entries. Same dates, same locations. This is ongoing, Monroe said. He secured the cabinet. Then he called someone. Hank heard him say, reporter. 10 minutes later, a woman arrived. Mid-30s. Press credentials. Monroe gave her access. Controlled. Limited. Enough to establish the pattern. You're free to photograph these barrels and this invoice folder, Monroe said. Chain of custody is preserved. The reporter worked fast. Photos. Notes. Questions Monroe answered carefully. When she left, Monroe turned to Hank and Elena. Story goes live in 2 hours. After that, everything changes. What do we do? Elena asked. Stay visible, stay safe, and let the process work. They drove back separately. At home, Hank checked his phone. The reporter's website loaded. The story was already posted. Illegal wildlife baiting scheme uncovered in Yellowstone region. The article named Clearwater Contractors, mentioned Trent Haller, showed photos of the barrels and invoices. Hank's phone buzzed. Texts, calls, people he had not talked to in years. Ruthie called. I saw the story. Yeah. How do you feel? Scared. Good. That means you're smart. At 6 p.m., his phone buzzed. Unknown number. Trees coming down tonight. The line went dead. Hank called Monroe. Someone's going after the cabin. When? Tonight. Where are you? Home. Stay there. I'm sending backup to the site. I'm coming too. Hank. He might show, Haller, and I want to see his face. Monroe was quiet. Then he said, Meet me at the trailhead. Dusk. Don't come alone. Hank called Elena. We're going back. When? Now. I'm coming. They met at the trailhead. Monroe waited with 2 rangers, armed, serious. We stay hidden, Monroe said. If anyone shows, we document. No confrontation. They hiked in. The sun set behind the mountains. Shadows stretched across the drainage. At the tree they spread out, hidden, waiting. The town held a community picnic the next morning. Trent Haller organized it. Short notice, big crowd. Hank stayed home. But Ruthie texted him updates. Haller's talking, calling you unstable. What's he saying? That you're grief-stricken, imagining conspiracies, hurting the local economy. Hank sat on his porch. He could see the park entrance from here. Trucks coming and going. Elena called. I'm at the picnic. It's bad. How bad? People are choosing sides. Half believe Haller, half don't. What about Cole? Haven't seen him. Hank hung up. He wanted to go, to defend himself. But Monroe had warned him. Stay out of sight. Let the evidence speak. At noon, Ruthie called. Cole just showed up. And? He's talking to Monroe in the parking lot. Hank drove to the park. He stayed back, watched from across the street. Cole stood with Monroe. A ranger held a recording device. Cole was talking. His hands moved. His face was pale. Haller saw them. He walked over. Fast. Angry. What are you doing? Haller shouted. Giving a statement, Cole said. About what? About the drops, the flights, everything. Haller's face went red. You're lying. No, I'm done lying. Monroe stepped between them. Mr. Haller, step back. He's making this up. He's trying to save himself. That's enough. Haller looked at the crowd. People watched. Phones out. Recording. This is a witch hunt, Haller said, led by a broken man who can't accept his son's death. Hank stepped forward. He could not stop himself. My son died because you baited bears into his patrol area. The crowd went silent. Haller pointed at him. You're delusional. I have. Your signature. On reroute orders. On invoices. On schedules. Lies. Monroe has the originals. Haller's jaw tightened. He looked at Monroe. This is harassment. This is an investigation, Monroe said, and you're welcome to cooperate, or hire a lawyer. Haller left. The crowd murmured. Some followed him. Some stayed. Ruthie came over. You shouldn't have come. I know, Elena joined them. That was stupid. I know, Monroe walked over. Go home, both of you. What happens now? Hank asked. I finish Cole's statement. Then I start building the case. How long? Weeks, maybe months. Hank's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Tree's coming down tonight, he showed Monroe. Same message as before? Monroe asked. Yeah. Then we go back, tonight, and we wait. They reached the tree at dusk. Monroe positioned rangers in a perimeter. Hank and Elena stayed together, hidden behind deadfall. The wait was long, cold. Hank's knees ached. At 9 p.m., a figure appeared. Male, medium build, headlamp on. Hank recognized the gait. Trent Haller. Haller carried bolt cutters and a backpack. He stopped at the base of the tree, looked around, then climbed. Monroe signaled the rangers. They moved closer. Silent. Haller reached the platform. He opened the hatch, reached inside. Looking for something? Hank called. Haller spun. The headlamp blinded him. He dropped the bolt cutters. Who's there? Hank stepped into the light. Phone recording. Why are you here, Trent? This is park property. I'm authorized. At night? With bolt cutters? Maintenance. You're destroying evidence. Haller climbed down fast. He grabbed the bolt cutters. I don't know what you think you have. I have your signature, on orders that killed my son. Haller's face changed. That wasn't... It was one night. One mistake. You rerouted him. The dispatch order was standard. Into a baited drainage. I didn't know the bears would... He stopped. Rangers stepped into the light. Monroe was recording. Didn't know what? Monroe asked. Haller looked trapped. This is entrapment. No, this is you tampering with evidence, on camera. Haller reached for the platform. The old bolt creaked. The boards shifted. Hank grabbed the rail, steadied it. Haller caught his balance. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt, Haller said. It was just tourism, better sightings, better reviews. And better profits for you. Everyone benefited. Monroe stepped closer. Trent Haller, you're under arrest for evidence tampering and obstruction. This is ridiculous. A ranger cuffed him. Read his rights. Haller did not resist. They walked him out. Hank stayed behind. He looked at the platform. The tree. The place where everything had started. Elena touched his arm. You did it. We did it. They hiked out. At the trailhead, Monroe loaded Haller into a state vehicle. What happens now? Hank asked. Formal charges. Investigation expands. This is just the start. Good. Hank drove home. The streets were quiet, empty. Inside, he sat in the dark. He did not feel victorious, just tired. But Jake's death had a name now, a cause, a chain of decisions that could be traced. That was enough. The investigations widened over the next month. Marla Dennehy was placed on administrative leave. Her approval of flight logs and suppression of dispatch records triggered a federal audit. Trent Haller faced multiple charges: wildlife crimes, obstruction, evidence tampering. His trial date was set for spring. The concession contracts were frozen, every invoice reviewed, every signature checked. Hank met with Monroe at a coffee shop. The officer looked tired but satisfied. Cole's testimony is solid, Monroe said. He'll face fines but no jail time. What about the baiting? Crews are pulling every cache we can find. It'll take months. Will it happen again? Not like this. Not without consequences? Hank nodded. He felt something loosen in his chest. Not relief. Just space. Ruthie visited that evening. They sat on his porch. I'm proud of you, she said. I dragged you into this. You gave Jake's death meaning. That matters. Does it? Yes. She set conditions. Boundaries. No more secrets. No more lone missions. If you chase something again, you tell me first. Okay. Promise? Promise. Maya and her parents visited the next week. The CPS case had been dropped. Harassment charges were filed against whoever made the false complaint. Maya handed Hank a drawing. The tree cabin. Empty. The sky plain behind it. It's gone now, right? She asked. Yeah, it's gone. Good. Her parents thanked him, set their own boundaries. Maya would not testify, would not be dragged into court. She did her part, her father said. That's enough. Hank agreed. He drove to the drainage one last time. A small sign marked the spot, warning of bait hazards. Crews had cleared the sites. The tree platform was gone, cut down, hauled away. Hank stood in the clearing. The wind moved through the lodge poles. Birds called. The forest felt normal again. He thought about Jake, about the reroute order, about 7 years of not knowing. Now he knew, and knowing was enough. He drove home. The shed was clean, tools on their hooks, order restored. That night he slept without dreams. The work was done. Not perfect, not merciful, but enough.